Story 1. The Haunting of Whispering Pines. It was a crisp autumn afternoon when my friends and I decided to embark on a camping trip in the remote woods of Whispering Pines. We were thrilled at the thought of spending a few nights surrounded by nature's beauty, but little did we know that our innocent desire for adventure would lead us to a chilling encounter that would forever haunt our memories. As the sun began to set, casting an eerie glow upon the ancient trees, we gathered around the campfire to share ghost stories. The crackling flames seemed to dance in sync with the tales of horror we spun. Despite the chill in the air, the warmth of the fire provided a sense of comfort. However, as the night wore on, a strange feeling of unease crept over us, and the woods seemed to grow darker and more menacing. In the distance, we heard the faint sounds of rustling leaves and distant whispers. We tried to dismiss it as the wind's play or the nocturnal creatures going about their business, but the sounds persisted, growing louder and more distinct. An unsettling aura enveloped the campsite, making us question whether we were truly alone in the wilderness. The flickering firelight revealed fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures darting between the trees. My heart pounded loudly in my chest, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. I glanced at my friends, hoping to find some reassurance, but their faces mirrored the same mixture of fear and bewilderment. As we attempted to rationalize the unexplained phenomena, we noticed strange symbols etched into the bark of the trees surrounding us. Their ancient and cryptic nature sent a shiver down our spines, and we realized that we might have stumbled upon something far more sinister than a mere coincidence. But what could it be? As the night deepened, an ominous fog rolled in, obscuring our visibility and further disorienting us. Our lanterns seemed feeble against the encroaching darkness. It was then that a haunting melody drifted through the air, a hauntingly beautiful yet melancholic tune that seemed to resonate from all directions at once. With growing trepidation, we followed the eerie music, hoping to find its source and put our anxious minds at ease. As we delved deeper into the woods, our sense of direction waned, and the oppressive atmosphere intensified. We were lost, trapped in a haunting symphony of whispers and shadows. Suddenly, my friend Rachel let out a piercing scream, her gaze fixed on something in the distance. We turned to see a spectral figure clad in tattered garments, its eyes hollow and filled with despair. The ghostly apparition seemed to beckon us with an otherworldly charm that compelled us forward against our better judgment. With each step, the woods grew darker, the music more somber, and our hearts heavier. Our minds were no longer our own. We were captivated by an ancient force that sought to claim our souls. Realizing that we had stumbled upon something beyond our comprehension, we mustered all our strength and fled back to the campsite. The ghostly presence followed us relentlessly, its mournful wails echoing through the trees. As we reached the safety of the campfire's glow, the haunting ceased, leaving us shaken and terrified. The remainder of that night passed in restless anxiety, with none of us daring to close our eyes for fear of what we might see in the darkness. As the first rays of dawn broke through the trees, we quickly packed our belongings and fled from Whispering Pines, vowing never to return. To this day, we cannot explain the enigma of those haunted woods. Some say it was the restless spirits of those who once called those lands home, while others believe it was an ancient curse that lingers to this day. Regardless, the memory of that fateful camping trip will forever haunt our dreams, reminding us that some places in this world are best left unexplored. Story 2. Eyes of the Dogman. The wind whispered through the trees, sending a shiver down my spine as I ventured deeper into the woods. The moonlight barely pierced the thick canopy, casting eerie shadows that danced at the edge of my vision. I had always been drawn to the darkness, the unknown, and tonight was no exception. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and my own curiosity, I embarked on a journey that would forever haunt my dreams. The air was thick with an otherworldly tension, as if the very atmosphere held its breath in anticipation of something ominous. I trudged along, my footsteps muffled by the carpet of fallen leaves. The forest seemed to close in around me, the trees towering like ancient sentinels, their branches clawing at the sky. My heart pounded in my chest, a rhythmic reminder of the isolation I had willingly subjected myself to. As I ventured deeper, the forest grew denser, the undergrowth more tangled. A rustling to my left made me freeze in place, my flashlight trembling in my grip. I strained my ears, trying to discern the source of the sound. My breath caught as I caught a glimpse of movement in the shadows, a pair of gleaming amber eyes fixated on me. The creature's gaze bore into my soul, a silent promise of danger. My heart raced as I trained my flashlight on the source of the eyes. What I saw froze the blood in my veins, a creature that defied logic and reason. It stood on two legs, towering at least 7 feet tall. Its body was a grotesque fusion of man and beast. A canine snout protruded from its muzzle, framed by matted fur that seemed to blend seamlessly with its muscular torso. Its arms ended in long, clawed fingers that twitched in the dim light. The creature's eyes never left mine, and a primal fear unlike any I had ever experienced washed over me. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to flee, but I was paralyzed by a mixture of awe and terror. The creature took a step forward, revealing more of its twisted form. Its fur was mottled with patches of deep red, as if it had recently feasted on something unimaginably gruesome. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the impossible. Dogman. The term echoed in my thoughts, dredging up tales of this cryptid whispered around campfires and dark corners of the internet. Stories of a creature that defied all attempts at classification, a predator that stalked the woods with an insatiable hunger. I finally tore my gaze away from the creature's eyes and stumbled backward, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Panic clawed at my throat as I fumbled to turn and flee. The forest seemed to close in around me, the trees twisting and shifting in my terrified mind. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves, sent a jolt of terror through me, convinced that the creature was right behind me, ready to pounce. I ran blindly through the woods, branches scratching at my skin, my heart pounding in my ears. It felt like an eternity before I burst into a small clearing, my chest heaving, my body coated in sweat and dirt. I collapsed to the ground, the adrenaline beginning to ebb away, leaving me trembling and vulnerable. Hours passed as I huddled in the clearing, the darkness around me seemingly impenetrable. The sounds of the forest had taken on an alien quality, every rustle and hoot amplifying my paranoia. But the eyes, the creature's amber eyes, haunted my thoughts, etching themselves into my consciousness. Eventually, the first light of dawn began to filter through the trees, casting a feeble glow over the clearing. My body ached, my mind still reeling from the horrors of the night. With trembling hands, I rose to my feet and stumbled back toward the edge of the woods, desperate to escape the nightmare that had consumed me. I emerged from the forest, my breath hitching as the first rays of morning sun touched my skin. I glanced back at the woods, unable to shake the feeling that I was being watched, that those amber eyes were still fixed on me. The encounter had changed me, leaving me with a chilling realization that there were things lurking in the darkness beyond our understanding, things that defied explanation and reason. And as I walked away from that haunted forest, the memory of the Dogman's gaze continued to haunt my every step, a constant reminder of the thin boundary between the mundane world and the terrifying unknown. Story 3. The Tale of the Sinister Elves. It all began on a beautiful spring day, the sun casting a warm and golden glow over the landscape. My friends and I set out on a hike, excited to bask in the beauty of nature and escape the confines of our everyday lives. As the hours slipped away, we lost track of time, savoring the sights and sounds of the forest. It wasn't until the sun began its descent towards the horizon that we realized we had lingered too long. Panic set in as we hurried to retrace our steps, but the forest had other plans. As the daylight dimmed, a creeping unease settled over us. The once familiar trails now seemed alien, the trees casting elongated shadows that seemed to reach out for us. Our laughter turned to nervous glances, and a sense of urgency pushed us forward. But despite our efforts, we found ourselves surrounded by an unsettling darkness, our sense of direction slipping away. It was in this state of uncertainty that we stumbled upon them, hundreds of little figures, no taller than a few inches, with delicate features and luminous eyes that glinted with an otherworldly intelligence. At first, the elves seemed harmless, their tiny forms flitting through the underbrush. They communicated in whispers, their voices tinkling like wind chimes, and they beckoned us to follow them. Curiosity got the better of us, and we trailed after them, our unease overshadowed by their apparent innocence. They led us deeper into the forest, their light footsteps leaving no trace in the undergrowth. But as the night wore on, the elves' behavior grew increasingly unsettling. Their laughter turned to chilling giggles that seemed to echo through the trees. Their luminous eyes took on a malevolent gleam, and the air around us grew thick with an oppressive tension. It was then that we realized we were no longer in control of our destiny. We were trapped in a realm where the laws of the known world held no sway. A sense of foreboding settled over us as the elves led us to a clearing adorned with intricate patterns of luminescent mushrooms. The ground seemed to pulse beneath our feet, and the air grew heavy with an intoxicating fragrance. The elves surrounded us, their faces twisted into cruel smiles. With every passing moment, it became evident that their intentions were far from benign. They had lured us into their domain, and escape seemed impossible. A desperate realization took hold of us. We were the prey in their deadly game. We turned and sprinted through the woods, branches clawing at our skin, our hearts pounding in our chests. The forest itself seemed to conspire against us, the paths shifting and changing before our eyes. The once familiar trails twisted into maddening labyrinths, and our hope began to wane. By some miracle, we managed to break free from the elves' grasp, stumbling into a clearing that felt different from the rest. Our breath came in ragged gasps as we huddled together, our bodies trembling with exhaustion and fear. As we caught our breath, we realized that one of us was missing. Panic clawed at our throats as we listened, our ears straining to catch any trace of our lost companion. Suddenly, piercing screams erupted from the darkness, their anguished wails echoing through the trees. The sound was bone-chilling, a cacophony of terror that sent shockwaves through our souls. We called out to our friend, our voices trembling with desperation, but there was no response, only the haunting echo of his screams that seemed to reverberate through the very fabric of the forest. With heavy hearts, we made the agonizing decision to flee the forest, our resolve shattered by the horrors we had witnessed. We stumbled back to civilization, our bodies battered and our minds scarred by the malevolent encounter. Though we reported our friend's disappearance to the authorities, no trace of him was ever found, a haunting testament to the power of the sinister elves that had lured us into their realm of shadows. 10 years later, the memory of that night haunts me, a reminder that even the most innocent of adventures can lead to darkness beyond imagination. The forest, once a place of wonder, had revealed its hidden horrors, and the echoes of our lost friend's screams still resonate in the deepest corners of my mind.